I was asked to produce a short recording for the International Council on Shared Parenting, outlining the progress that has been made in the United States over the last 10 years. And that focused me on some very positive news here. And it's good for us to hear positive news from time to time, because we can be very frustrated when we see good shared parenting laws be blocked by special interest groups that are giving specious arguments against shared parenting. So I just want to remind people that despite the slow progress, we have seen significant progress. We now have 5 states in the U.S. that have explicit presumptions of equal shared parenting when parents separate. And one more state, Arizona, has a statute which is being interpreted by their courts as a presumption of equal shared parenting. We see more and more shared parenting bills being introduced in state legislatures, and they're getting further along in the legislative process, and that's all good news. We have growing evidence of overwhelming public support for legal presumptions of shared parenting, and that helps to build some pressure on legislatures to adopt presumptions of equal shared parenting. And as I think all of you probably know, the evidence that has been amassed over the last 40 to 45 years of the benefits of shared parenting for children continues to grow, and people are becoming increasingly aware of this. So not only parents, but divorce professionals are. So there is reason to be optimistic. If we keep up our efforts, we will be successful, and we will at one point look back at the time when sole custody was the standard outcome and think, were we ever doing that? And why were we ever doing that? That was crazy. Now, I mentioned the International Council on Shared Parenting and the 10th anniversary, and I do want to make a pitch for you to attend the International Council on Shared Parenting's 10th anniversary event, which will be held on May 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can get the links to it by going to the ICSP website, which is a simple website to remember the address of. It is twohomes.org. And there is a link there to attend that event. Today, we focus on shared parenting. Tomorrow is Shared Parenting Day, but today is also the Parental Alienation Awareness Day. Now, we think that these 2 days live happily together in the calendar, because we don't believe that shared parenting is a magic bullet that will end all parental alienation, but it is one part of an effective tool against parental alienation. When both parents have the children in their homes a substantially equal portion of the time, they develop their own relationship with the children, and it makes parental alienation more difficult. Because this is Parental Alienation Awareness Day, we've designed tonight's program to have a special focus on parental alienation. We'll have some special guests talking about that issue. We have a very interesting program designed for you today. And following the program, there will be a screening on Facebook Live of the terrific film, We the Parents. And that'll be hosted by the filmmakers, Mike and Elizabeth McNeese. So I invite you to join on Facebook Live for that event as well. I want to now introduce tonight's host. Ashley-Nicole Russell is an award-winning attorney. She is a leader in the collaborative family law practice, and she's also the author of The Cure for Divorce Culture. We at NPO are very grateful to benefit from her experience and her expertise as a member of the National Board, and she is your host for tonight's evening. So, Ashley, let me turn it over to you.
Hey, everyone. Nice to see you and nice to meet you. I am Ashley-Nicole Russell, and I am an advocate for shared parenting. I am a child of divorce. I am a divorce attorney, and I have also been divorced. And so I have quite a few perspectives on the divorce arena, and particularly how that affects shared parenting. And I'll get into all that later. But I just want to say how excited I am that I am here, especially on the second year, but the year that we've had so much success with the states that we have been able to move the ball on. And it's incredible to understand how amazing this effort is growing and the substantial size that we have grown it to all together. As we all move, this parachute rises together. And I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you. And so tonight I am kind of your journey host. I'm going to be leading you through all of these amazing people that are going to be talking to you tonight, some of them receiving awards. At the end of the night, after this one jam-packed hour, you should have a really amazing perspective of exactly where shared parenting is now in our country, and the efforts that we have made, but also see the places that we can still move the ball and jointly do that together in a collaborative effort. And so I want to bring first our, I would say, godfather of shared parenting legislation in a lot of ways. He is not only the person who dubbed Shared Parenting Day, which we are obviously celebrating, and the color that goes along with it, but he also is the very first one to get his law passed in Kentucky and has provided great guidance for so many of us along the way, both professionals and individuals who are struggling through the process. He not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk as a shared parenting parent. And we are so lucky to have Matt Hale to be able to talk to you tonight and give you a little bit of the history.
What a great day. It's Shared Parenting Day, and not just any Shared Parenting Day. It's the 5th anniversary, kind of like a birthday. I remember well when Shared Parenting Day was just a crazy idea that I'd cooked up in my head, and I hadn't shared with anyone. But the first person I shared it with was truly important. Kentucky's then Governor Matt Bevin. I explained to him that the day he signed the bill, April 26th, was special. It was special because that was the day the first state ever declared that shared parenting was in a child's best interest in the law. Second, April 26th was the day after National Parental Alienation Day. So Shared Parenting Day was like the day following the night. And light played a special role in Shared Parenting Day in another way. I chose yellow as the day's color because it represented light. And the color yellow has always played a special role for families. All those yellow ribbons signify family reunification. Shared parenting laws are kind of like yellow ribbons that help families stay intact. Kentucky's shared parenting shocked the world when it passed. It wasn't only because Kentucky was the first state to pass an explicit shared parenting law. It was how the state reacted to it. It was called the most popular law of the year. Polling showed that it was supported by a factor of 6 people supporting the statute to every one opposed. Newspapers ran columns endorsing it. And then there was the effect it had on the family courts. The number of divorce case filings dropped and domestic violence filings plummeted. That would be shocking enough, but the effect Kentucky's family reform law had in other states was even more astonishing. Think about this. It took America 242 years for one state to pass a shared parenting presumption law in Kentucky. But after Kentucky's law, 4 more states passed shared parenting in just 5 years. And now we're seeing other states joining celebrating the day of the Bluegrass States law being passed. Missouri, Arizona, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and South Dakota have all proclaimed April 26th Shared Parenting Day. Now we're even seeing cities like El Paso and San Antonio, Texas, plus Bartow and Lakeland, Florida, proclaiming April 26th a special day. Well, why wouldn't they celebrate shared parenting? Polling tells us that no matter where you live, large majorities of your neighbors and friends support shared parenting. Even more importantly, kids support shared parenting. And what kid doesn't want both of his or her healthy parents in their life loving them? So let's celebrate Shared Parenting Day and already look forward to next year's April 26th, because I'll bet we have even more good news to enjoy between now and then. Hopefully, we'll have even more states join us in the glorious park of shared parenting.
Thank you, Matt, for your beautiful video explaining the background of how we got this beautiful day, Shared Parenting Day, and the color yellow, and why we represent Shared Parenting Day with yellow. I wore my yellow today, and I am excited to be, like I said, an advocate of shared parenting. Next, we have Madison Welburn. She goes by Madi, and a lot of you know her from the amazing story that she has. She was alienated from her dad for 20 years. Obviously, like Don said, parental alienation is something that's very key to the shared parenting movement and how closely related those are. Madi was able to use her story, though, and help other people to become reunited. She has a very successful YouTube channel, and she's the founder of the Anti-Alienation Project. And here is Madi to talk to us today.
As a little kid, I actually believed that sugar came from diamonds and that my blood was blue beneath my veins. I believed in God and ghosts and demons. And when I was 9, my mom made me believe one more thing, that my dad doesn't love me. Day after day, I was fed the same lies, that my dad has narcissistic personality disorder, can't feel empathy, is abusive, monster, missing part of his soul, doesn't love me. I believed it all, hook, line, and sinker. But this is not a victim story, because I'm not a victim anymore. My dad and I are some of the lucky ones. I learned the truth and we've become close again. I share my experience as a cautionary tale. I want people to know this can happen because it did happen to me and many other survivors that I've met. That being said, losing my dad, who was my very best friend until that point, created a line in the sand for me. From that point, there was before and there was after. Age 9 was a disaster. Like most survivors of childhood trauma and abuse, in terms of mental and physical health, at age 9, I began to immediately decline. Things progressed from childhood anxiety and depression to a restrictive eating disorder and an autoimmune condition and a whole other myriad of very negative effects in my life. After my parents divorced, I never once spent the night at my dad's house. I rejected him for the next 20 years, although he kept a room and a bathroom for me. At 28 years old, with 2 little girls of my own, I learned about a very specific form of child psychological abuse called parental alienation from, believe it or not, a YouTube video by a former alienated child named Ryan Thomas. Shout out to you, Ryan. Thank you for changing my life. This is partially why I began to make YouTube videos. What is parental alienation? This is a form of severe psychological child abuse, where one parent manipulates their child to reject their other loving parent without true justification. My name is Madi, and I am a survivor of child psychological abuse and an activist for children's rights. I represent the Anti-Alienation Project, an organization I created last June to support adult children of parental alienation and to raise awareness of the long-lasting devastation that this causes. I'm so grateful for the National Parents Organization and its efforts to protect parent-child bonds. I'm grateful for all the wonderful parents who protect and love their children unconditionally. Today, I speak out on behalf of a very specific group of children, the millions of children who are currently enduring the same psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years. I cannot stress the following point enough. The fractured relationship with one's targeted parent is only the tip of a very large iceberg when it comes to the damage that this abuse can wreak on not only a child or a childhood, but a life and a lifetime. Furthermore, because the alienating parent convinces the child that their other parent is bad, abusive, unloving, etc., the common destructive effects on the child are similar, predictable, and specific. The child, realizing that they are half of each parent, internalizes this hatred and comes to believe that half of them is bad. In fact, a very common thought that I had consciously over the past 2 decades was, if my own dad doesn't love me, there must be something really wrong with me. This internalized hatred is why the effects of this abuse on the child are similar, predictable, and specific. Most members of our support group have suffered from rock bottom confidence and self-esteem, symptoms of complex PTSD. Also very common among alienated children is depression, insomnia, poor body image, eating disorders, poor executive function, identity issues, memory loss, anxiety, problems with attachment, feelings of isolation, using self-harm to cope, lack of trust in oneself and other people in the world, self-hatred, aggression, enmeshment, or worst of all, suicidal ideation, attempts, and death by suicide. These self-destructive effects, by the way, extend into adulthood and can last a lifetime if the child who has been abused, the child who's been forced to live in a fabricated reality, never learns the truth. See, during the 2 decades that I was living in this nightmarish false reality imposed on me by my other parent, I always wanted to get better. I always wanted to be happier, mentally better, physically better. I wanted to feel free, but I never could. The whole time, I didn't understand why I had these certain struggles. But now it's very clear. Of course, I couldn't heal. How was I supposed to? You can't heal from something if you don't even know what it is you're supposed to be healing from. That's why I believe awareness is crucial. Moreover, we know that these effects are predictable due to research done in the field. We know from research that this form of psychological abuse, for example, is generational. Dr. Amy Baker found, for instance, that 50% of alienated children will go on to become a targeted parent or an alienator themselves. In this way, parental alienation not only affects the one person, their life and their relationships. No, it can affect the entire bloodline, their children, their children's children. In that way, the effects of this abuse cannot be quantified. I wish this was just my story, but it's not. This is not specific to me or my family. This is a very common form of abuse, but the weird part is that most people don't know what it's called or how to treat it or how devastating it actually is. But in fact, this is a worldwide epidemic. Like most childhood survivors of parental alienation, upon learning the truth that my dad does love me and that he's not abusive, he's always cared about me, and he never gave up on me. In terms of mental and physical health, I began to improve quickly. It's been 2 years now since I watched that video from Ryan Thomas on YouTube and learned what happened to me and put the pieces of my life together. Since then, I've been creating the most wonderful life for myself and my family that I possibly can, while trying to alert society to this form of severe psychological abuse so that other people who've been alienated from a loving parent might be able to put the pieces of their lives together. They deserve to heal and create wonderful lives for themselves too. For 20 years, I was fed the same lies day after day, which I believed hook, line, and sinker. And learning that my dad really does love me and has loved me the whole time, it was like finding him again. And I felt happier than ever. And reconnecting with him has allowed me to reconnect with parts of myself. Learning the truth has created a new line in the sand for me. There was before, and now there's after. The bottom line is that children deserve to live in reality. Parental alienation is child abuse, and to deprive a child of their loving parent is a human rights violation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madi. So next we have Dr. Alan Michael Graves. Madi's perspective, of course, is that from a child. I have a similar experience from my own childhood. It's what drove me to go into family law, to try to become a divorce attorney, to make a difference, to try to heal some of the same things that I saw in my own childhood and then learned in law school. The generational effect that Madi's talking about, all of us here today, we can be generational chain breakers. And I think that's what we're all attempting to do. One of those people who is a generational chain breaker is Alan Michael Graves. He is he's the senior director with the Good Plus Foundation. They are studying the effects of child support laws. And so he's going to give us an update really quick of what is happening around that and the reform. Obviously, it's not all good news in shared parenting. We have a lot of work to do left. It is amazing what's happened over the past year, and especially over the past 5 years. If we look at it in a long historical timeline, it's been a while, and then a huge jump in progress. So that's phenomenal. However, there's still more work to be done. So Alan Michael Graves is going to talk to us about that now.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Alan Michael Graves, and I serve as the Senior Director of Training, Capacity Building, and Policy Change for the Good Plus Foundation. And I'm super excited to be taking part in NPO's annual Shared Parenting Day event. Founded in 2001, the Good Plus Foundation is a national nonprofit that works to dismantle multi-generational poverty by pairing tangible goods with innovative services for under-resourced fathers, mothers, and caregivers, creating an upward trajectory for the whole family. With offices in New York and Los Angeles, the Good Plus Foundation partners with approximately 125 innovative anti-poverty programs across the country. Our goal is to incentivize parental enrollment and participation in programs like counseling, health services, employment assistance, financial literacy, parenting classes, and much more. Having been successful in supporting programs and families across the country for the first 10 years, it took a decade for us to fully appreciate that our culture, our policies, and our social service providers were treating fathers as secondary, non-essential actors in their children's well-being. Well, in 2010, the Good Plus Foundation expanded program to intentionally include fathers, noting that strong fathers can build stronger families, more resilient families, which are the backbone of thriving communities. And the more we invest in fathers and their capacity to be engaged co-parents, the greater impact we see on children and families as a whole. But this requires a trauma-informed lens and a two-generational approach, an approach that strengthens a family's well-being by intentionally and simultaneously working with systems and service providers to help families overcome barriers that include bias and both systemic and institutional racism. With the establishment of the Good Plus Training Academy, one that advocates and provides training, technical assistance, and resource linkage to transform social service systems that have been identified as obstacles to a father-inclusive approach to helping families. We now partner with organizations that place a strong focus on child welfare, early childhood education, mental health, and child support reform. We found that these particular areas are blind spots in the broader social sector. And we believe that providing advocacy as well as evidence-based informed training opportunities are essential to breaking down systemic barriers that prevent the marginalization of many low-income families. Our collaboration with NPO is a perfect example of such efforts. In our collaboration with NPO and the partnership with Ascend at the Aspen Institute, we have sought to address outdated child support laws through state-level reforms of shared parenting time, right-size payment orders, co-parenting and support and services, and alternatives to punishment for non-compliance. Reforming these areas will advocate for parents who are often pushed below the poverty line by unrealistic child support obligations that prove impossible for them to meet and prevent them from fully participating in raising their children. Along with NPO, the Good Plus Foundation embraces the research and the goals to modernize child support programs through holistic, family-centered policies and practice that build partnerships with parents instead of adversary relationships. Going beyond just collecting money to addressing underlying reasons for non-payment, ensuring that children benefit from payments, and facilitate effective co-parenting, family-centered child support policies that put children where they belong, at the center of child support policy making. Thank you for allowing us to celebrate with you in the Shared Parenting Day and celebrating the successes of the shared parenting movement, and also a focus on the collaborations that have made this event possible. Thank you again.
Speaking of collaborations, next we have Mark Ludwig, and he's going to talk to us about the multitude of support organizations, advocate organizations that are popping up. So many of us across the United States of America and worldwide have been affected by this and are finding each other to be able to help advance resources all over the sphere. And so I think that Mark has a lot of insight into the collaboration between organizations.
This is Mark Ludwig, the founder of Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. It's important for all the organizations in the shared parenting community to work together for a common goal. And this year, National Parents Organization has put together a phenomenal virtual event for International Shared Parenting Day on Thursday, April 25th. So I encourage everyone to go to the National Parents Organization's Facebook page on Thursday, April 25th. They have put together a phenomenal virtual event that I am definitely looking forward to myself. See you there Thursday, April 25th.
Thank you, Mark. And so next we have Ned Holstein. So Ned is the founder of National Parents Organization. Pretty amazing that this organization is still thriving, still going, still researching, still polling, still making change. And Ned's the one that started it all with his vision. He's a nationally recognized expert on the effects of the environment on human health. Such an important piece of what's going on with shared parenting. We know that environmentally, children need to have both of their parents, and his research has been able to help us, and his guidance has been able to help NPO to understand the people who we can find that have the most amount of information. NPO has really become such a source of research across the country and across the world. And so we're glad that Ned started National Parents Organization so that so many people across the United States and all over the world can find resources that can help them with their own problems, and so that we can be a resource to as many people as we can help. He does hold an MD and MS from Harvard College and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Mount Sinai School of Medicine. So thank you, Ned, for joining us today.
What do we do in a world that now seems to honor the degree of cleverness with which falsehoods are spun more highly than the actual truth? The only way to fight mendacity is with more truth, and we are here today to honor those who have pursued the truth. Today, on the eve of Shared Parenting Day, we honor the authors of the most powerful and important shared parenting research paper published during the previous calendar year. We call this the 2023 NPO Ned Holstein Shared Parenting Research Award. My name is Dr. Ned Holstein, and I'm the founder of National Parents Organization, and for many years was its CEO until turning it over to the capable hands of Don Hubin. NPO is the largest organization in the United States advocating for the true best interests of children after parental separation or divorce. I no longer have any official role with NPO, so my opinions that I express today are mine alone, and not those of NPO nor of the researchers whom we are honoring. Now, getting on with the story, although it is obvious that some divorced or separated parents work tirelessly to alienate their children from the other parent, certain practitioners of mendacity have invented spurious arguments and lawyerly word games to deny the very existence of parental alienation and to claim that it is a false accusation made for the purpose of denying child custody to so-called protective parents who are only trying to save their children from the custody of the other battering parent. And of course, in this gendered age, the argument of these makeup artists is not only contrary to common observation, but of course it is also gendered, such that in their view only men, or mainly men, are guilty of making such accusations. One of the principal authors of this mendacity has been Joan Meyer, a professor of law at George Washington University Law School. Almost 20 years ago, she claimed that an astonishing 75% of all fathers who sought any little share of custody of their children were secret batterers. National Parents Organization mobilized a huge response to this absurd claim and exposed her so-called data as pure fabrication. But now we have Joan Meyer making it up all over again in her gendered parental alienation denial, and all the media and even the legal community once again are lapping up her claims. Now this brings us to the heroes of today's story. 4 intrepid researchers set out to examine the central claims of Meyer and others. They meticulously examined nearly 5,000 family court records in Canada and selected 500 in which parental alienation had been established. They studied the legal outcomes in these 500 cases, and they found that assertions of parental alienation were not camouflage for battering, and that the other central claims by Meyer and others used to promote legislative changes in the United States were unsupported by their alleged data. Therefore, National Parents Organization is proud to bestow the 2023 NPO Ned Holstein Shared Parenting Research Award on the authors of Gender and Child Custody Outcomes Across 16 Years of Judicial Decisions Regarding Abuse and Parental Alienation, published in the Children and Youth Services Review, Volume 155 in 2023. And these authors and our honorees here today are Professor Jennifer Harman of Colorado State University, Professor Christine Giancarlo of Mount Royal University in Calgary, British Columbia, Canada, Dr. Demosthenes Lorandos of Michigan, and attorney Brian Ludmer of Toronto, Canada. Authors, your paper is a model of excellence. Many of those who nominated this paper describe it as a landmark. It is simply the best research available on how courts handle claims of child abuse and parental alienation. And, unlike Joan Meyer, by having the courage to publish detailed information on your research methodology and coding your raw data, you allow other researchers to scrutinize your work, and thus you demonstrate your unflinching dedication to the truth in your willingness to allow others to prove you wrong, should it be the case. I also have the honor today of announcing this year's recipient of the NPO Ned Holstein Shared Parenting Research Lifetime Achievement Award. Our honoree today has also been a soldier for the truth, joining the exalted company of previous recipients of this Lifetime Achievement Award, namely Michael Lamb, Sanford Braver, Malin Bergstrom, and Linda Nielsen. May they live long and in good health in our Hall of Fame. Our honoree today has authored more than 35 articles and book chapters over the last 25 years on the best parenting arrangements for children after parental separation or divorce. This invaluable work has vastly increased our understanding of the importance of father involvement in the well-being of children and the value of shared parenting, even for toddlers and infants, and much more besides. Your very recent research provides strong evidence that the practice of shared parenting in and of itself is a causal contributor to children's better outcomes, not merely a correlate. Moreover, a paper you published in 2020 provides strong evidence of the value of establishing a rebuttable legal presumption of equal shared parenting. Your work was the primary driving force in Arizona's enactment of its shared parenting presumption in 2012. In summary, your determined search for the truth has already prevented enormous suffering among both children and among parents, has created better lives for both, and is leading us towards a better life for our entire country. I am thrilled to award this year's NPO Ned Holstein Shared Parenting Research Lifetime Achievement Award to Professor William Fabricius of Arizona State University. Congratulations, William Fabricius, for your marvelous and numerous contributions. Jennifer Harman, Christine Giancarlo, Demosthenes Lorandos, Brian Ludmer, and William Fabricius. We thank you for your tireless efforts and honor you for your dedication to the truth. Thank you.
Unflinching dedication to the truth. That's how Dr. Ned Holstein described that. That is amazing. These award winners are absolutely all of that. It is phenomenal to hear the level of dedication. 16 years were studied, 16 years of research in that longitudinal study by Dr. Harman. And I know Dr. Harman just a little bit through my efforts with NPO, and before that through a time in Chicago that I went to see a viewing of the Erasing Family documentary. And I have just thoroughly enjoyed listening to the level of knowledge that she has around the topic, and the dedication to the truth there could be no better way to describe that. Truly, all of us are trying to expose that from different perspectives, from different viewpoints. We're all trying to kind of get this message across, and to have the backup of that incredible knowledge from her and all of the people around that research, and of course for both awards, is just really incredible. One thing that I did want to mention is 10 of you are going to be able to receive Emma Johnson's new book, The 50-50 Solution. And so I'm assuming that that's just, if you reach out in the message thread, the first 10 people who want to have her book will be able to get it. Dawn, if that's wrong, do let me know, or Leanna, but I do think that that's the way that that will be happening. So I see people going, yay! It is a phenomenal book. She really puts it all together. Emma Johnson is an amazing person. She is a dear friend of mine. I love her very much. And the book that she has written, combined with the research of, for instance, the 16-year study and other studies before that, it just gives us all the tools for our tool belt that we need going into our different state legislatures. So yes, here's Don. He's chiming in on exactly what the process is, but I think that was it. Yay, very exciting. So next we have Jennifer to speak to us. Dr. Harman is going to talk to us. She does, of course, hold a PhD in social psychology from the University of Connecticut and 2 master's degrees from Teachers College of Columbia University. She has done extensive research on parental alienation. To me, she is the person who is most aligned with that concept of parental alienation. She has provided me so much research that I've provided to my clients and all over the state of North Carolina to make the change that I've made there. And I know she's provided so much to all of you too, who are in your own different warrior paths in your own states. And so here is Dr. Harman.
Hello, and thank you for asking me to say a few words on this Shared Parenting Day event. My name is Dr. Jennifer Harman, and I'm an associate professor of psychology at Colorado State University. While it is a coincidence, this day that commemorates the signing of the first explicit shared parenting legislation in the United States falls just one day after the International Parental Alienation Awareness Day. Over the last few decades, we've seen considerable scientific advances in our understanding of both the benefits of shared parenting as well as the harmful effects of parental alienating behaviors on families. Hundreds of peer-reviewed, empirically based scientific studies have been published to create an undeniable knowledge base about these 2 overlapping topics. We know it's not just the quality, but the quantity of parenting time that benefits children after their parents have separated or divorced. Every other weekend visits with a parent may be high in quality, but research indicates it's the extended time with a parent that helps to maintain a psychological attachment more firmly to them. The day-to-day parent-child interactions send an implicit message that the parent is there for the child and is able to meet their everyday needs. The closer to 50-50 parenting time with each parent, the better the child's long-term outcomes, even when the parent has conflict with their other parent. However, research findings are also clear that equal and shared parenting is not recommended in situations where there's family violence. When there's a parent figure who is abusive, it's not healthy for children to be in their care until that parent has gotten help and is determined to no longer be a danger. This empirical research is reflected in legislation and policies that make shared parenting a rebuttable presumption. Over the last few years, there's been a strong and highly vocal resistance to research, policy, and legislative efforts that recognize parental alienation and the benefits of shared parenting. The ideological basis of this resistance lies in antiquated beliefs about gender, beliefs that women are the primary victims of abuse and only perpetrate aggression in response to provocation, beliefs that mothers are better parents than fathers, and that children really only need one healthy parent. No matter how much research we do to demonstrate a lack of empirical support for these beliefs, the louder the critics of this work get. Science denial is now rampant in this space, and those of us working in the front lines face insufferable ad hominem attacks from our detractors. I learned a few weeks ago that a recent study my colleagues and I published in the peer-reviewed journal Children and Youth Services Review is the recipient of the National Parent Organization's Ned Holstein Shared Parenting Award. The committee who selected our paper determined it to be the most significant research related to shared parenting published in 2023. We're humbled and very appreciative of this recognition, particularly in the context of continued ad hominem attacks my colleagues and I have suffered since the article's publication. Our paper, titled Gender and Child Custody Outcomes Across 16 Years of Judicial Decisions Regarding Abuse and Parental Alienation, presented research findings that there are not gender differences in how custody is allocated in parental alienation cases, particularly in cases where an allegation of abuse had been made against the alienated parent. We also did not find that custody evaluators or other court-appointed third parties created gender biases in custody decisions. We also found that only about 10% of allegations of abuse made about the alienated parent were found by investigative parties like the police and CPS to be substantiated. Indeed, 30% of abuse allegations made by an alienating parent were made out of retaliation, right after the other parent filed a motion with the court asking for intervention, or after the court took action to protect the children from the alienating parent's behaviors. Our study provided additional support to research finding the same outcomes published by Dr. Nick Bala in 2010, Amelie Paquin-Boudreau and colleagues in 2022, and another study Dr. Lorandos and I published in 2021. Our conclusions? Stop looking at gender as the most important factor in these cases. We have all repeatedly failed to find gender differences across most of our hypotheses, and when they do exist, the differences were so small they were not meaningful. Instead, we need to look at other factors that contribute to child custody outcomes, like the psychopathology of the abusive parent. These research findings across multiple studies are at odds with the unpublished research of Joan Meyer and colleagues, longtime critics of parental alienation. The research is at odds with the UN volunteer, not member, Reem Assalam's bias and anecdotal report on gender biases and parental alienation that's been promoted heavily by advocates. By failing to acknowledge high-quality, peer-reviewed research that contradicts their arguments, the critics hope that the public will unquestionably accept their arguments at face value. Unfortunately, these critics' efforts have been effective in undermining protections for abused children. The advocates fail to recognize that we all want children to be protected from abuse, and that both fathers and mothers are as likely to psychologically abuse their children and use them as weapons in their family conflict. This failure serves to harm millions of families across the world. I am repeatedly told that we must be making progress if we're facing so much resistance to change. I do hope that this is true. While critics of shared parenting efforts and parental alienation may continue to spread misinformation to delegitimize the empirical research that supports it, I'm happy there are organizations like National Parents Organization that stand for the truth. I stand with you all in the struggle for children's rights to have healthy relationships with both of their parents or parental figures. We have scientific evidence on our side. It's important to communicate this research clearly, loudly, and directly with decision makers and stakeholders. I implore all of you to become more vocal. Speak with your legislators. Get involved with National Parents Organization and other organizations like Parental Alienation Study Group. Communicate research across social media. Challenge detractors' beliefs. And most importantly, correct misinformation when you see it. Thank you again for inviting me to speak to you today, and happy Shared Parenting Day.
So amazing to hear from her and to hear about this phenomenal research. I hate hearing her talk about the detractors, but we all know that it's there, and just having more knowledge and more information helps us to be able to get that message out all across the country. So one thing that I do want to do, we're going to be a little bit more interactive for the next 15 minutes. I get to talk to you. I would love to have a sound off. So if you would put in the chat, I'm going to say the first thing, and then you can put your own sentence in. But I, Ashley-Nicole Russell from North Carolina, am an advocate for shared parenting. If you would put your name and where you're from and that you're an advocate for shared parenting, if you want to participate in the sound off, I would love that. I love watching the feed go off whenever we all are excited about being an advocate for shared parenting in our individual states, and us being able to see exactly what states are here with us. I know you originally were saying the states that you were in, but it would just be so amazing to watch. And here we go. I love it. So one other thing we're going to do, and Marcy's going to put up a poll for us here in a minute, is are you doing equal shared parenting or close to it? So we're going to have 3 polls. That's the first one. And I'm just going to let her kind of put that up as I continue to talk to you. And so you are able to kind of roll through that. So I'm Ashley-Nicole Russell. I am a divorce attorney. Before you throw stones, I'm a collaborative divorce attorney. So I support shared parenting. I also support ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution processes around divorce. Now, I know that not all of you have been through a divorce. Custody is not necessarily related to divorce. A lot of times it is. Please know when I talk about the word divorce, I mean custody situations in general. I'm just really used to saying it, being a divorce attorney. And so the book that I have is The Cure for Divorce Culture. Now, let me make that clear. I'm not saying divorce needs to go away. I'm not saying that divorce itself needs to be cured, but the culture of it, the culture of what happens around custody and parenting is what needs to change. It cannot be a warlike culture. That is what you have heard here today. That is my great message, is that parents must, at the end of the day, have a baseline level of respect for one another. Baseline level of respect to me in this very equal world that we live in means equal shared parenting. And so I am a supporter of shared parenting in my practice of collaborative family law. What I have found is that most collaborative family law practitioners are very big supporters of shared parenting. And so I'm not saying that alternative dispute resolution is available for everyone. If you are already involved in the court system, there are ways that can change, but it's difficult. Just know that there are bodies of people who are being trained, who are coming up through the legal practice and system that are trying to practice in a different way, that are trying to move divorce, move custody in a place that allows people to settle their disputes out of court and to be able to come up with those common ground settlements that result a lot of times in 50-50 settlements. So most collaborative cases, in my experience, do generally come down to a 50-50 settlement and a 50-50 arrangement, as long as both parents live within the same state, and that type of thing. So it is an incredible thing that ADR is on the rise. One of the things that National Parents Organization participated in was Divorce with Respect Week. There were an incredible number of states, over half the states in the United States of America participated or had representatives from different law firms that offered free consults for a week for divorce clients and custody clients in order to be able to hear about not only ADR, but also litigation. And so it's important to understand litigation and all processes available to you in your state that can help you to deal with this. It may be that you can invite the other person into a mediation or into a collaborative setting with the help of an attorney. And it may not be that way, but you at least want to have the information. Information is knowledge. That's what we've been talking about here today. And that's an incredibly, incredibly important piece of information that I want you guys to have, is that not all divorce attorneys are out to get clients into litigation or are only going to practice litigation. Not all divorce attorneys are doing that, and there is a change moving forward. And so looking into that, there's a lot of different organizations, but collaborative family law, just to kind of explain the differences and highlight some things. Mediation, if you've ever seen the movie Wedding Crashers, those guys are mediators. So a mediator is generally where you have a neutral third party in between the two parties. Collaborative is where you both have attorneys, but everyone agrees to stay outside of court. And so look into those nuances if you're in this field and you're personally having to deal with it. And also understand that help is on the way. That's the message. It may not be that your particular case is available for this, but there are more and more classes being taught in law schools because people like me and other attorneys like me who are very dedicated to this mission are really trying to get in and help baby attorneys know that there's a different way to practice outside of litigation for family law. Family law was really kind of stuffed into the civil aspect. You know, there originally was civil court and criminal court. And then family court has, in North Carolina and a lot of other states, been regulated through small town chief judges making those decisions in family courts and what those rules are. So family court has to kind of abide by a lot of systems that civil court was made for civil court. If you have an issue with your neighbor, if you have an issue and you're damaged, not such a close family bond as a family, a mother, a father, a child, the relationship with both of those parents that needs to be nurtured and loved and understood, and the role of it understood, the research around both of those roles and how important both of those roles are for identity. I think Madi said it a way that I've said it a number of times, which is that when you hear your parents talk so negatively about one another, you internalize that and feel like that's you, speaking as a child, an adult child of divorce. So that's what my body of research has been around, is adult children of divorce and what happens to them when they go through these terrible experiences through court, the adversarial experiences. What happens when they grow up? How do they function in their own relationships? Do they make it to growing up? Or like Madi said, have they committed suicide and did not get there? A lot of school shootings in America can be related to single parent homes. And so we want to make sure that we're analyzing this and understanding it, that parents are being given this information and are aware walking in to a court system to understand what it is that they're looking for and what they're advocating for. Do they want to be in the litigation system, or are they just walking into it blindly because they didn't know about all these other processes that are open? What we have found is that a lot of people don't know that these other processes are available. So to the extent that we can get that awareness out is really important. And I know one thing that I want to make very clear is the generational chain breaking difference that we can make. Madi mentioned it, of course, Dr. Harman's research. All of us know that this does not just affect the child and the parent. In fact, on NPO's website, you can see that we quote that there's 22 million parents that cannot see their child. That's 44 million directly affected people, the parent and the child, 44 million. That is larger than Canada and in between the size of Poland and Spain. That is an amazing amount of people that are affected. The subtitle of my book is called The Lost Class of People. And so there's an entire set of people, parents and children, who have been affected by this industry in an incredible way. Those people are now being researched and understood. We're all joining together to help this effort together. We're able to kind of self-identify now. Me, a child of divorce who has a lot of scars and effects from it, has changed the way that I've functioned in my life. I am divorced. I'm trying my very best to make sure that I can prevent that generational chain breaking from being passed down to my own daughter or any other families of all the families that I represent. And so I just want you to know and hear this message of hope for me, that there are even professionals in the field who are starting to think and understand and change, that are starting to hear in law school, when you're being taught in order to maintain confidentiality and in order to help the status of your client's case, you should have them not speak to each other anymore and only speak to you. When I was in law school, when I heard that, I immediately understood that that would mean, one, that we have now violated the telephone game that we learned in third grade. So if I tell Susie something, she tells Bobby, Bobby tells Trent, Trent tells Parker, Parker tells me the same thing back, it's not going to be what I originally said. So if my client tells me something, I tell the other attorney, that attorney tells their client, these two people have a child together or have been married. And now, is that information supposed to be the same? No, it's not going to. It's especially being filtered through two attorneys. It's not going to be the same information. Why would we be teaching people to coordinate that way about their child's soccer schedule, about their child's dance class? It makes no sense to do that. The only thing that does is create a huge divide. And thinking about it and thinking about my own childhood, I see where my parents communicated fine, and then they no longer did forevermore. Through all of my graduations, through my first wedding, all of it. And it's, when you set up these systems of how it's okay to treat one person or another, or how it's okay to have this really broken down level of communication around the child, that one day everything was fine, and then the next day now their parents aren't supposed to ever talk again, that doesn't make any sense. And it leads to a generational effect, a snowball effect. And so we are in the business of breaking that back down, of allowing people to not run to litigation, to not even need litigation. There are, I think, 17 states in the United States of America now that have collaborative family law statutes, where the court system itself has said this is a very important option that people should consider before they ever come to court. And I think that it's an important space. It's an important space where we can start to break down those traditions around family law that build in an attack of one another, that build in a degradation of someone's personality or character, and that build in this turmoil and trauma that happens for a very long time for children of custody battles and of divorce. So we are supposed to be 6:59 now. I want to make sure that we're able to wrap it up. We do have Elizabeth and Mike McNeese. They made We the Parents. And so you're going to be able to see that now. And there's another poll that will be coming up as well. That will be sent to you, but we want you to be able to see this, and that's, do you support legal presumption of equal shared parenting?
I just wasn't going to allow my kids to grow up without their father.
And having absolutely no relationship with him, it hurts. It really does.
I'm a business owner. I'm an elected official, but the courts didn't think I was good enough to raise my kids.
There could be no system that would be designed to hurt the family more than the family court system in its present form.
They're not protecting the kids because they are cutting one parent out of the life of a child just because two adults can't get along.
What do people do when their children are taken away? And she said they pay their child support and shut up, and walked away. And I thought that was the most accurate encapsulation of my experience in family court.
I've been through 43 false allegations, not one conviction, not one arrest.
Lawyers, judges have financial gain. Social workers and people that are in the community, our jobs really is to clean up after the mess that happens from courtrooms.
Hello, my name is Mike McNeese, and this is Elizabeth McNeese, and we are the founders of Echo Films, and we are also the creators of the We the Parents documentary.
We made We the Parents because we both have been through family courts, and we had very different experiences, and we thought that our own experience was something unique. But as we connected with more families, we realized that the way the courts operate right now is actually impacting millions of families across the country and even across the world. So we wanted to tell the stories of parents and families who've gone through the court system to explain what happens and maybe bust some myths about how family courts operate.
Elizabeth and I have both been through family court. She had a much different experience than I did. Hers wasn't so bad, and mine I thought was awful, but then as we started creating this documentary and getting more involved in the shared parenting movement, we found that my story really wasn't that bad, and in fact, I'm one of the lucky ones. And there are so many people that have been victimized by the family courts, and children obviously are being the true victims there.
When you're going through it, it's easy to be loud, and you come across to other people as maybe a little unhinged or emotional. I think as a society, it's easy for us to look at other people's experiences and think, well, that's just, you know, an odd situation, or that's just an extreme case. It's not normally like that. But what we've learned is that that's not the case. And the most shocking thing was when we were interviewing some of the cast members, some of the parents in the film, we were talking to parents who were the stay-at-home parents before they went through a divorce. They had the children a majority of the time. They were the primary caretakers, and even still, they couldn't get the standard parenting time with their own children. And not because they did anything wrong. No laws were broken. They were happy, law-abiding citizens who'd always been part of their child's life on a day-to-day basis. But because they were separating from the other parent, the court was able to come in and sever that parent-child relationship.
So in We the Parents, we tell the real stories of some people who've been through family court, but we also offer solutions, and we think we know what the solution is, and we just need to get those laws changed in many of the states across the country. So what you can do is watch the film if you haven't already. Please share it with your family and friends. Share it with your legislators. Share it with everybody that you can on social media. We're trying to create a buzz and get some awareness about the family court issues.
Yay! All right, we are nearing the end of our program. We do have one more poll for you that we want to make sure we get in. And that's, have you or a member of your family been a victim of parental alienation? And then I want to make sure all of you know that there is a Facebook exclusive premiere of the full We the Parents documentary that is going to be happening. Marcy will be sending a link in the chat. You can copy and paste into your browser and will be redirected to the Facebook Live event. And you can feel free to close the Zoom app window when you do that. And I think that starts around 7:15. And so that event starts around 7:15. So we're going to get this last poll in. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. A lot of really great information. I was reading through the chat some while the video was playing, and it's just so beautiful to hear from everyone all over the country, and all of us being here together today to support this. Also, Parental Alienation Day. Just so proud of all of those who have been along the path. How cool that it's to the point that NPO is giving out these awards, because so many generations of people have already been a part of it. So that's really incredible. And I think we're at the very end of where the catalyst from all the years of work before are going to continue to compound, and the snowball of getting all of the laws in the states changed is just going to be like a snowball rolling across. So I hope that is what happens. And I'm really glad that all of you were here with us today. Thank you so much to my fellow board members of NPO. We've put a lot of work in, and we really love this mission that we all have. And we really care about all of you and all the people that we're trying to serve and help. And we really hope that our research helps, and the compilation of all of that, all of the other amazing researchers across the sphere that we try to bring together for ease of access. If there's any way that we can help you along with your efforts in any state that you're in, if you're hearing this and you're wondering, how can I get a bill passed in my state? Could I possibly be the champion? Please reach out to us. We would love to give you information and start steering you in the right direction. That is our goal. We've already polled half of the states in the United States of America. We fully intend to get 50 different shared parenting laws, and so maybe even the extra territories, and everywhere that we can go. And so thank you all for being with us, and we really appreciate your time.